This is the poem Tortilla Smoke, a Genesis by Natalie Diaz. In the beginning, light was shaved from its cob, white kernels divided from dark ones put to the pestle until each sparkled like a star. By nightfall, tortillas sprang up from the dust, billowed like a fleet of prairie schooners sailing a flat black sky, moons hot white on the blue flamed stove of the earth. And they were good. Some tortillas wandered the dry ground like bright tribes. Others settled through the flowery ceiling, el cielo de mis sueños. Hovering above our tents, over our beds, floppy white frisbees, spinning, whirling like project merry-go-rounds. They were fruitful and multiplied, subduing all the beasts' eye teeth and bellies of the world. How we prayed to the tortilla god to roll us up like burritos, tight and fat, como porros, to hold us in his lips, to be ignited, lit up, luminous with Holy Spirit, dancing on the edge of a table, grooving all up and down the gold piping of the green robe of San Peregrino, the saint who keeps the black spots away. To toke and be token, carried up, away in tortilla smoke, up to the steeple where the angels and our grandpas live, porque nuestros madres nos dijeron que viven allí, high on the top that is the bottom, the side, the space between, back to the end that is the beginning, a giant ball of masa, rolling, rolling down, riding hard the arc of earth, gathering rocks, sighs, lemon trees, Joshua trees, creosotes, sighs, spray-painted blue bicycles resting in gardens, hunched bow-legged, grandpas in white undershirts that cover cancers, whittling their organs like thorns and thistles, like dark eyes wide open, like sin, leaving behind bits and pieces of finger-sticky dough, grandma's mistake for communion, y toman la hostia. It clings to their ribs like gum they swallowed in first grade. The grandmas return from misa with full to the brim estomagos and overflowing souls to empty homes. They tie on their aprons. Between their palms, they sculpt and caress, stroke and press dozens and dozens of tortillas, stack them from basement to attic, from wall to wall, crowding closets, jamming drawers, filling cupboards, and el vacío. At night, they kiss ceramic statues of Virgin Marys, roll rosary beads between their index fingers and thumb, weep tears prettier than holy water. Sanna, sanna, colite de rana, sino sanna, sahora, sanaras mañana. When they wake, they realize frogs haven't had tails in ages. They hope gravity doesn't last long, and they wait. Y esperan, y esperamos to be carried up, anywhere, on round, white, magic carpets and tortilla smoke. I love an origin story that begins with corn, like many of us do. Any origin story that begins with not just corn, but then the tortilla itself, and that being a representation of our history. Is really incredible. But not only that, I mean, I think Natalie Diaz is one of our best poets writing today, not just for her sound work and her line breaks, but for the muscularity of her language. Every single image is doing double work. Every single sound is doing double work. On so many levels, I think she's really a genius of our time. And so not only was it a joy to read the poem, but to read it out loud, to have it in my mouth, in some ways like a tortilla. It was satisfying. I think that there's so many levels to the poem that there is a sense of the sacred, but there is also a sarcasm. And I think that there's a level in which there is a discussion here, in the understory of the poem, if you will, about colonization through through Catholicism, through Christianity. So I think that's also there. And then I also think that there's a level in which there is an openness to how we bring a sacredness to whatever church is offered. And that to me is very interesting as well, that those two worlds are at play, that it's not just about the religion and the sacred, but also how we take care of one another, how we feed one another, that it's not just the bodies, but the spirit, how we make people not just survive, help people not just to survive, but to flourish. And that the gift of feeding and the gift of being fed is a sacred act itself, beyond any kind of religious connotation. I feel like so often there's a level in which we're always looking for belonging. And I think this poem is creating belonging. And the tortilla, whether it's, in some humorous stanzas or in a heavy stanza about cancer, right? Or about the need to heal, or all of these things, I think there's a level in which it's also healing against a world that often is not welcoming. And so I think that there is a level of defiant belonging is the tone in which I read the poem, because it has a righteousness to it. And the righteousness is in the ownership of space and the ownership of this mythology that is created here, which is the mythology of an origin story that begins with corn. And that to me, it's really powerful. I think the tone is power. This poem resonates me on different levels. I think for me, I was raised atheist, so I don't have a religious upbringing, but my grandfather was religious. And so I always was sort of fond of peering into religion as an outsider. And I was much more at home in the stories about how we began of the earth. And so this poem to me makes sense because it brings both of those worlds together. And so for me, it resonates in that way. I always felt sort of outside of the church and outside of religion in general. And so looking at a new way of the origin story delighted me. But I also think that, I grew up in a household where my father would often be making either tortillas or making something out of tortillas. I feel like that was, for me, that was the bread. That was our toast. That was our bread. And so honoring that in that way always feels really special to me, because it feels to me like a sacred food.